The smell of old printer toner clung to the conference room carpet. I was still holding the laminated nameplate, the one with Senior Project Lead engraved in gold plastic, when Darren breezed past me like I was another piece of furniture. The meeting hadn't even started, but my title was already missing from the agenda packet, and that wasn't an accident. Just 12 hours earlier, my wife had kissed me goodnight with a proud smile. "I always knew you'd get it," she whispered, touching the side of my face like she used to when we were still dating. That was before the board got involved, before someone decided I wasn't supposed to be at the top of the org chart after all. 3 months ago, I was just Logan Wright, project manager, grinding out 50-hour weeks on a product no one believed in except me. TracerFlow was supposed to be a backend analytics suite for logistics companies, shipment delay prediction, weather-based routing optimization, all tied into AI-enhanced recommendations. Every team lead thought it was bloated junk. Every sales call ended with, "We'll circle back." Except I knew what we had, and I knew it could work. So I stayed late, rewrote modules, took 3 unpaid weekends to build a cleaner demo pipeline. I pitched it again to Rael from sales during her lunch. I asked Danica and Data to give me just 2 hours to clean the input set and test it against her historic shipments model. Slowly, it began to click. Then it took off. One Friday in April, Rael ran into the office holding a tablet over her head. "We got them," she screamed. "Martex is in, they want a 6-month pilot." That was the start. By June, we had 5 clients in pilot. By July, we were onboarding a 6th. I got pulled into more leadership meetings. HR started asking about comp title alignment. It was coming, everyone knew. I didn't apply for the promotion, it was offered, twice, first by our director Nadam in a Tuesday check-in. "You'll be running point," he said. "I'll push it to the board, don't say anything yet." The second time it was official. Senior project lead, more money, more visibility, more pressure, and yeah, more eyes on what I was building. So you'll understand why I didn't sleep well the night before the reorg announcement. I'd spent that week refining my kickoff deck for the senior team, stakeholder expectations, revised hearing forecast, DevOps spend projections. It was going to be my stage. That morning, I even ironed my shirt, a navy button-down my wife picked out because she said it made my shoulders look decisive. I walked into the room at 9:22. My name wasn't on the seat. Not in bolds, not in highlight, not even a printout in the back row. But Darren was. Darren, who didn't know what a container was. Darren, who took 2 sick days the week I pulled a 70-hour sprint to fix the broken endpoint between billing and load estimator. Darren, whose leadership skills consisted of smooth talk and perfectly timed jokes during client meetings. He was smiling, not at me, past me, at someone behind my back. Rael didn't meet my eye. Danica looked confused. Only Nadam looked like someone had shoved a lemon into his mouth and told him to act natural. I sat down slowly, opened the packet. Page 2, Leadership Realignment, Q3 Strategic Roles. There it was in black and white. Senior Project Lead Darren M. Lee. The rest of the meeting is a blur. My ears rang like someone had slammed a fire alarm directly into my skull. I didn't hear the applause. I didn't hear Darren's "thank you for trusting me" speech. I didn't hear the part where Nadam fumbled his words introducing the rest of the realignment. I only heard my own voice in my head, repeating the same question over and over again like a broken PA system. What the hell just happened? That night, I didn't tell my wife. I couldn't. She had already made dinner. She poured 2 glasses of wine. She asked if I needed a new office chair for the new title. I nodded. She smiled. And I hated myself for letting her believe it. I told myself I'd find out quietly, HR first, maybe a clerical thing, maybe someone forgot to send an email. I'd sent Darren a Slack message, "Congrats, let's sync soon." He left it on read. Monday morning, I went to HR. Hannah, the benefits coordinator, blinked at her screen for a long time. "Weird," she muttered. "You were flagged for a promotion. There's a freeze showing now." "A freeze?" "Yeah, she clicked a few more times, then leaned in like she wasn't supposed to say it. "Looks like it was reversed after board review." "Reversed when?" "Midnight Friday. My meeting with Nadam had been Thursday afternoon. Someone walked it back after hours. Someone changed my future after I'd already told my mom, after I'd paid the deposit on a private kindergarten for my daughter because of the raise. I thanked Hannah, left, walked 3 blocks to my car, and sat there with the AC on, staring at nothing. The next week was hell. Every time Darren made a decision I wouldn't have, I had to watch. Every time someone looked confused during his meetings, I had to pretend I agreed. When clients asked for me by name, he'd smile and say, "Logan's still a key player, I just help connect the dots." I started hearing things. "You okay?" from Rael. "You've been quiet lately" from Danica. "You skipping happy hour" from Jacob and Dev. I smiled, shrugged, just focused. But inside something snapped. So I started looking for answers. I'm not a political guy, I code, I fix things, I tell the truth, but corporate truth is a weird kind of animal, it shapeshifts. So I started doing what I never thought I would. I checked the org calendar for exec meetings I wasn't in. I watched who left rooms with who. I noted which names were copied on which follow-up threads. It didn't take long. There were 2 threads, one internal, one external, both dated the same weekend I'd been promoted, then suddenly not. One of them had a file attached, performance risk staff transitions. I couldn't open it, but I saw who uploaded it. Darren. I needed proof. That's where things got complicated. Because if you're thinking I downloaded internal documents, violated some confidentiality policy, or hacked anything, you're wrong. All I did was ask the board assistant, Melissa, if I could get a copy of the slide deck from the leadership transition Q&A Darren gave to the board. Sure, she said, like it was nothing. She emailed me the PDF. I opened it on my phone in the stairwell. Slide 9, bullet point 3. Recommended L-Write remains on TracerFlow as IC to maintain stability, not suitable for senior visibility due to communication gaps. I stared at it for a long time. Communication gaps. That's what he sold them. He sold them the lie that I couldn't lead, that I was good enough to carry the weight but not wear the uniform. I walked back into the office, breathing hard. I still didn't know why Nadim didn't stop it. I still didn't know what changed between Thursday and Friday. But now I had something solid. And something else I didn't know yet. That the board was about to ask some questions of their own. The elevator ride to the top floor always felt too quiet. No music, no posters, just mirrored walls that made you confront your own face like you were the only thing between yourself and where you wanted to be. I was holding a manila folder. Inside were screenshots, printed emails, and the deck Melissa had unknowingly handed me. Slide 9, Darren's silent knife. I wasn't going to barge in, I wasn't going to scream. But I was going to leave it on someone's desk. Let them see the fine print in the lies they nodded through. It all started unraveling on a Tuesday. The kind of Tuesday that pretends to be harmless, sunny, slow, middle of the quarter, everyone just trying to coast. I had a late client call blocked off on my calendar. Riel was on PTO, Darren had left early for some internal alignment happy hour. That meant the floor was quiet. Too quiet. I went to the printer room and made 3 copies of the PDF deck, highlighted slide 9, wrote 1 line on a post-it. If this is how we define leadership now, I want to understand the standard. Logan Wright. I didn't sign it like a coward, I wanted them to know. I dropped 1 copy on Nadim's desk, under his framed photo of him and his 2 boys in Yosemite. The second went to Ellen Park, one of the outside board members, someone who'd once asked me to walk her through TracerFlow's architecture in a 30-minute hallway chat and told me afterward, "Logan, you explain things better than any VP I've met." The third I wasn't sure about. I considered skipping it, but something told me not to. I dropped it in the outgoing mail bin for Margot Sellers, chair of the Compensation and Ethics Committee. I thought I'd feel better. I didn't. I sat through the rest of the week like a ghost in my own body. Darren assigned me to a refinement task force, a glorified sandbox team of 3 junior devs and a shared Jira board with no deadlines. "I just want to give you space to focus, man," he said, smiling like we were friends. "No distractions, you're my cleanup guy." Cleanup guy. Like I was a mop. Like the work I'd done building TracerFlow meant nothing more than polishing whatever scraps he left behind. Friday morning came with an unexpected email. Subject: board request, clarification follow-up. Sent by Margot's assistant, short and formal. Mr. Wright, the board would like to invite you to join a closed session next Thursday at 2:00 p.m. to address questions regarding your recent role reassignment and TracerFlow leadership documentation. Please prepare a brief summary of your understanding of the current organizational structure and your contributions to the Q2-Q3 delivery pipeline. There was no CC, no Darren, no Nadim. Just me. And a date. I barely slept that weekend. My wife noticed the change in me. She said it was the new role. I told her I was adjusting. That Monday, I started building a timeline, not out of vengeance, out of clarity. I logged every milestone TracerFlow hit since January. February, first load prediction model V1 completed, code commits, mine. March, client-facing demo environment stabilized scripts, mine. April, Riel's pilot presentation built analytics data, cleaned and structured by me and Danica. May, first 3 client use cases onboarded, led calls, debugged pipeline, delivered updates. June, internal handoff process documented, trained Darren on load balance module. Slide by slide, I built my own deck. But I didn't frame it like a fight. I framed it like a question. If this is the output of a bad communicator, what are we rewarding? Thursday arrived like thunder in my stomach. The board meeting wasn't held in the usual floor 18 glass fishbowl. This one was on floor 26, a private room only used for annual reviews and legal sign-offs. When I walked in, there were 6 people. Margot, Ellen, 2 senior HR reps I barely recognized, Nadim, pale as flour, and one guy I didn't know, suit, tablet in hand, watching me like a biometric scanner. I waited to be told where to sit. Margot gestured calmly. Logan, thanks for coming, take a seat, we just want to hear from you directly. No introductions, no slides on the screen. So I began. I didn't read a script, I talked like I was explaining to my daughter how a circuit board worked, simply, slowly, without ego. I walked them through the TracerFlow timeline. Pointed out the decisions, the rewrites, the sacrifices. I never mentioned Darren by name. But I showed them slide 9 from his deck, the one that labeled me not suitable. Then I showed them client emails, phrases like, Logan is the only one who understands our use case. Please loop Logan in, his last fix solved the latency issue. Thanks again, Logan, you made the impossible work. I ended with one line, quiet and direct. If my communication is a problem, I need that feedback, but if it's being used as a political weapon, I need that truth. The room didn't move for a second. Then Margot looked at Nadim. Did you sign off on this wording? She asked. Nadim opened his mouth, closed it. No, he admitted, I didn't see the deck before the session. That hit harder than anything else. Margot folded her hands, then who approved it? Silence. The man in the suit, the one I didn't know, finally spoke. Let's take 5. Out in the hall, Nadim cornered me. You shouldn't have brought this to them, he hissed, you're making waves. I built TracerFlow, I said, I deserve to know why I was erased. He looked away, rubbed his temples. It wasn't personal. That's what they always say. That's what people say when they need your silence more than your presence. Back in the room, the tone shifted. Margot said, Logan, thank you for your transparency. We'll be reviewing this matter carefully. No promises. No hints. Just the tone of someone who'd seen the cracks and was trying to decide which beam to knock out next. They let me leave. I didn't go back to my desk. I walked out the front door into the parking lot and sat in my car until my wife texted. Dinner at 7, should I pick up anything? I stared at the screen. Typed back ice cream. Because somehow I knew something cold was coming, but I didn't know if it was justice or frostbite. The following Monday, Darren didn't show up to the leadership huddle. Tuesday, his name disappeared from the org calendar. Wednesday, we got a realignment update email. Buried in paragraph 4 was a phrase I read twice to believe. Effective immediately, interim leadership for the TracerFlow team will be reassigned to Logan Wright, pending permanent approval. Pending. But it was a start. What I didn't expect was who called me next. Ellen Park. From the board. Logan, she said, there's more you should know, and it didn't just start with Darren. The phone call with Ellen Park didn't start with pleasantries. She jumped in like we were mid-conversation, like I'd already agreed to know more than I maybe wanted to. Have you ever heard the term strategic redundancy? She asked. I blinked at my living room wall where a Lego spaceship hung off a makeshift shelf my daughter and I had built last fall. My wife was upstairs giving her a bath. I turned slightly so my voice wouldn't carry. Strategic redundancy, I repeated. It's how certain board members like to describe talent overlap, Ellen said. It sounds clinical, but it's corporate code for something much worse. She paused. It's what they called you. The board hadn't just been reviewing promotions that quarter. They'd been doing something quieter, auditing roles across departments, seeing who was crucial and who could be streamlined. Normally, that process takes months: anonymous data, performance reviews, budget projections, HR consultations. But this time there was a shortcut. A confidential review sent in by one of the VPs. 3 candidates were flagged as technically strong but lacking strategic leadership. All 3 were team leads on projects that were outperforming projections, but none had the polish the board wanted in client-facing roles. I was one of them. The other 2 had quietly left over the summer. No farewell emails, Ellen said, just vanished. I was quiet for a long time. Then, and Darren. Ellen's voice stiffened. He vouched for the file. Wrote it. No, that was someone above him, but he co-signed it, endorsed it as accurate. And Nadim, I asked. She didn't answer right away. Then Nadim tried to block it, but he was outvoted. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed downstairs, the room lit only by the glow of a muted TV screen, flipping between channels I didn't care about. I kept seeing the word redundant in my head. Redundant. Like I was a plug they could afford to pull. It wasn't about competence, it was about image, who looked the part, who talked in neat sound bites, who smiled in the boardroom. And in the end, Darren looked shinier. By Friday, the whispers had started. HR scheduled informal touch bases with the TracerFlow team. Rael texted me. Should I be worried? HR wants to talk next week. No subject line, just quick sync. Danica pinged too. You hear anything about reorg too? Weird stuff going around. I didn't answer either right away. Because I didn't know what to say yet. Because there was something else nagging at me, something Ellen said before hanging up. If you're still serious about staying, you should see the full picture. The board doesn't always agree on what's best for the company. Sometimes they need help seeing what they missed. That Monday, I got another invitation. Same sender, same subject format. Subject: Board Review Session 2, TracerFlow Strategic Role Discussion. They wanted me back. This time with departmental insight. Not just what I built, but how others had built it with me. They wanted to know who mattered. Who wasn't redundant. Who kept the thing alive when the lights were off and the overtime wasn't logged. I had 5 days. That week, I did something I hadn't done since college. I interviewed people. Rael, Danica, Jacob from Dev, even one of the junior engineers Darren used to delegate grunt work to. Each conversation started the same way. Can I ask you something off the record? They all said yes. Some were nervous, others relieved. Most of them thought I'd already left months ago, that I was checked out. When I told them what had really happened, they all looked the same. Angry, not shocked, just tired. Danica said it best. He's not a bad guy, she whispered, meaning Darren. He just didn't care about anything but being seen. Rael told me about the time Darren took her credit for the Martex pilot win, when she'd chased that lead for 4 months straight. Jacob showed me Slack messages Darren had sent him, demanding he finish dev work on a Sunday night for Monday's board demo, promising exposure instead of comp time. And the junior dev. He said this: he once told me if Logan leaves, it'll actually be easier for me to run things, less resistance. I didn't take notes, I didn't record anything. But I remembered everything. On Thursday, I walked into the boardroom with a new folder. Title slide. TracerFlow team map, actual versus projected contribution. I flipped to the second slide. A simple pie chart, no names, just percentages. Documented contribution versus reported ownership. The numbers didn't lie. Darren's name sat next to the smallest slice. Ellen wasn't alone this time. The full board was present. So was the head of HR. So was Nadim. They didn't interrupt me. I walked them through how TracerFlow had been built, who solved what problem, who debugged what pipeline, who soothed which client. And I ended with a line that surprised even me. If leadership is about who gets the microphone, then Darren won. But if it's about who kept the lights on, I think we've been looking at the wrong list. Silence. Then Margot closed her binder. We've heard what we need to hear. No follow-up. No questions. Just a sense of air being pulled out of the room. Friday afternoon, I got a new calendar invite. Subject: offer discussion, executive function reassessment. I opened it. From Nadim. When I walked into his office, he looked older. Like a man who'd been balancing on a wire and just lost the pole. I owe you an apology, he said. I didn't answer. I didn't protect you, I thought I could fix it from the inside. And I was wrong. I nodded once. He slid a folder across the table. Not just a promotion. A department. TracerFlow wasn't just a project anymore. They wanted to build a full analytics division around it and put me in charge. Head of Technical Innovation. Full title: Real Team, my call on hearing, direction, culture. But there was one catch. I had to choose the first 3 new team leads myself. That night I sent out 3 messages. One to Danica, one to Rael, and one to the junior dev, the one Darren had called extra. Each message had the same subject line. You're not redundant, want to build something real. The first one to reply was Rael. Are you serious, or is this one of those hypothetical scenarios execs like to throw out? I texted back a photo of the signed offer letter with the header. Head of Technical Innovation, Logan Wright. 2 minutes later, she sent a gif of someone fainting. Danica took longer. She called instead of replying. Her voice sounded hesitant. You know, I left management for a reason, right? I'm not asking you to manage, I said. I'm asking you to co-design this thing. You see systems people miss. I need that. Silence on the other end. Then you'll protect the team. I'll build the roof myself if I have to. Okay, she said, then I'm in. The junior dev, Marcus, didn't reply until the next morning. His message was simple. I've been waiting for someone to ask. It was strange how fast things changed after that. Within 2 weeks, I had an office with a door, not a corner suite, but one with a working window and a proper desk lamp, not the flickering overhead fluorescence we used to work under like lab rats. But I didn't spend much time in it. I was on the floor with the team, redesigning TracerFlow's new architecture with scalability in mind, not just patching what we had, rebuilding it from the foundation up. We created 2 new submodules, one for logistics load forecasting with real-time weather ingestion, and another that allowed clients to visualize shipment bottlenecks via an interactive dashboard. It was sleek, efficient, ours. We didn't chase the flash. We chased stability. Darren. Gone. Not in a dramatic way, no big announcement, no goodbye email. One morning he just wasn't on Slack. By lunch his company card had been deactivated. Nadim told me quietly over coffee. He was offered a transition package. He didn't argue. I didn't ask for more. There was nothing left to say. Sometimes justice doesn't come with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives in silence, a door that doesn't open again. 3 weeks later, Ellen Park stopped by unannounced. She walked in mid-meeting in jeans and a gray cardigan, no blazer, no entourage. Don't mind me, she said, waving off the team's scramble to stand. I just wanted to see what you were building. I gave her the tour. She nodded through most of it, asked 2 sharp questions that told me she actually read the specs. At the end, she pulled me aside. You did something most people don't, she said. You didn't just expose a problem, you replaced it with a better option. I laughed softly. Honestly, I didn't think anyone up there would care. She smiled. We don't always, but some of us do. Then she handed me a folder. From Margot, she added, you'll want to read it tonight. That night, after my daughter had fallen asleep and the dishwasher hummed quietly in the background, I opened the folder. It wasn't about me. It was about them. Inside were records from the strategic redundancy review, all the names, all the notes. It was worse than I thought. Danica had been flagged as too autonomous. Rael, high energy, low executive compatibility. Marcus wasn't even on the list, that was the point. He hadn't been considered important enough to track. There was also a memo unsigned, suggesting that a culture reset could be achieved by removing legacy problem solvers who didn't fit the new public image. That's what they called us. Legacy problem solvers. Like fixing things wasn't the point. I sat with that phrase for a long time. Then I opened a fresh document on my laptop and started typing. The Builder's Charter. It was a short document, no buzzwords, no logos. Just 4 rules. We solve what's in front of us. We credit the people who get it done. We teach, we don't gatekeep. We speak clearly, no translation needed to sound like a leader. I printed a copy and pinned it to the break room corkboard the next morning. No one said anything for a few days. Then someone added a sticky note under it. Finally, the new department was small, just 12 of us to start. But what we lacked in headcount, we made up for in clarity. We knew what we were. We weren't Darren's era, we weren't buzzword chasers, we weren't building for optics. We were building because it mattered. Because somewhere out there, a logistics director was watching 30 shipments go sideways because a legacy system didn't update in time. Because somewhere a customer was waiting for their medicine to arrive and the truck was stuck in a snow drift no one accounted for. Because somewhere a team like ours had been pushed out, silenced, or made to feel redundant when they were the only ones keeping the wheels turning. About a month in, Nadam stopped by during a team sync. He waited until the discussion ended, then asked if he could share something. Most of you know I've been here 12 years, he started. I've seen 3 restructures, 2 acquisitions, and more rebranding decks than I care to admit. Some chuckles. But what you've built here, this is the first time I've seen something that feels rooted, not just a pivot, a foundation. He turned to me. And Logan, I won't sugarcoat it, I failed you. I let someone else's ambition rewrite your future. I'm glad you rewrote it back. I nodded, didn't say much. Because I knew what it cost to get here. The last line on the Builder's Charter. Someone underlined it with red marker last week. We speak clearly, no translation needed to sound like a leader. Danica said she caught Marcus practicing that one before a client call, smiling in the mirror. We hit our first major milestone in mid-September, 3 new clients onboarded without a single critical ticket raised in the first 2 weeks. Internal efficiency up by 17%, dev cycle shortened by a full sprint. It wasn't flashy, but it was honest. Real. Then one morning, I opened my inbox and saw a message with the subject. Speaking request, Annual Tech and Ethics Summit. It was from Margot. She wanted me to talk about leadership failures, about resilience, about what happens when quiet builders stop staying quiet. I stared at the screen for a while, then clicked reply. My keynote speech wasn't dramatic. I didn't name names. I told a story about a guy who got erased before his name was even dry on the plaque. About how silence isn't the same thing as professionalism. About how communication gaps can sometimes mean not loud enough to be dangerous. About how leadership isn't a title, it's a choice made every time someone trusts you with a problem and you say, let's solve it together. When I stepped off the stage, someone stopped me in the hall. Young guy, lanyard badge, probably early 20s. He said, I sent in my resignation last week. My boss took credit for something I bled over, but after hearing you, I think I'll stay and fight a little longer. I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded and said, build something they can't take credit for without exposing themselves. 6 months after I was made head of technical innovation, I stood in the old TracerFlow war room, now fully converted into our division's collaboration hub, and looked at the whiteboard wall that used to track sprint chaos and dry erase chicken scratch. Now it had color-coded timelines, feature branches, hand-drawn sticky notes with things like client pain point, right arrow, empathy first. MVP not equal to rush junk. Don't build alone, don't burn alone. Someone had drawn a small sketch of me in the corner, cartoon me, holding a wrench in one hand and a coffee in the other. The caption read, Logan still fixing it. There were moments I still caught myself wondering what would have happened if I had stayed quiet, if I had let Slide 9 define me. If I had convinced myself that being the cleanup guy was safer than being the one who made waves. But then I'd walk past Rael in a client call, clearly leading, clearly trusted, and remember that courage echoes. Or I'd find Marcus on a Saturday morning, tinkering with a new latency visualization tool, headphones in, eating cold leftover pizza, and I'd realize. We didn't just save a project. We saved the people who saved it. 3 things happened before the fiscal year ended. First, TracerFlow's new product line got full integration approval with our parent company's logistics arm, a deal that would roll out our tech to over 40 clients in 8 countries. That meant funding. Real funding. Second, HR sent a memo quietly updating how performance and promotion feedback would be handled. It removed the single-point escalation loophole Darren had exploited. From now on, any leadership flag required team feedback and documented support from 2 independent departments. No more unseen assassinations, as Danica called them. And third, Margot invited me back. Not for a speech. For the board. Not as a member, obviously, not yet. But to sit on the quarterly innovation review panel. She said something in the elevator ride up that stuck with me. We used to look for polish first, substance second. You helped us flip that. I took the seat across from a young guy presenting a new internal workflow system. Green tie, nervous eyes, fast hands. Halfway through his pitch, the CTO interrupted him with a pointed question about the projected ROI. He flinched, fumbled. I leaned forward and said, "Could you walk us through the team conversations that shaped this solution? What made you pick this over option B?" His face lit up. He launched into the story, the late nights, the friction with finance, the breakthrough that came at 1:00 a.m. because someone spilled water on a whiteboard and erased their stuck assumptions. I smiled. Because I saw it. Another builder. Later that day, Nadim and I shared a beer at a corner bar, the same place we used to half drown after failed sprint reviews. He raised his glass. To legacy problem solvers, he said. I raised mine back. To the ones you can't replace. It was past midnight when I got home. My wife was asleep on the couch, a book half fallen onto the floor. I picked it up, placed a blanket over her, and walked quietly into my office. On the corkboard under the builder's charter, someone had taped a new note. It was in Marcus's handwriting. We were never redundant, they were just too loud to notice us. Some stories end in a big explosion, a courtroom reveal, a shouted confession in the rain. Mine didn't. Mine ended when I stopped asking for a seat and started building the table. It ended the moment I realized that silence protects systems that aren't broken, just rigged. It ended the day I was finally able to look at myself in the mirror and say, without blinking, I earned this. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real-life confessions and emotional journeys like this one.